Quick question for today. The association or network that you're a part of, would it ever consider funding a church health specialist? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that. Last week we got together as a General Baptist Ministries team, and we got together with our cabinet, our vice presidents, and the president, and some other people, support staff, and also our regional coordinators. And we just talked through the future and what the next 3 to 5 years was going to look like, and sort of our goals and strategy and all of those type things. And one of the things that, for me, in the area of church health, one of the areas that that I talk about and think about a lot is like, how can I help more churches as I see churches that are struggling, as I see churches that are in decline. How can I help them better? Because here's the thing, I'm one person for 500 or 600 churches in America, and it's hard for me to know what's going on at all of them. And even the ones who let me know or let us know, sometimes it's hard to figure out how to help them, because I only have so much time and I only have so many resources, and I can only get to so many. For example, last year I had a church in Arkansas reach out to me. I'm in Tennessee, for those of you who don't know, and so that we're struggling, and so I can have conversations with those pastors, I can encourage those pastors, but sometimes it's hard for me to get there and to see their church service and kind of give an evaluation and give next steps. And it really takes, for many churches, and many churches in decline, it really takes a very intentional effort and process of trying to walk with them as they come out of that. Like it can't be solved in just a simple, hey, I'm going to come to your church on Sunday, and then we're going to have a coaching call maybe once a month or whatever. Like it's hard to do. Even this yesterday, even this past Sunday, I was at a church that's going through sort of a revitalization, a rebrand. They were worried. They weren't sure if how much longer they were going to be able to keep the doors open. And so I went there and got to be a part of their service and got to see what they have done so far and how that's going. And I can do that, and I can give feedback, and I can talk through that. But they really need somebody who's going to be able to walk with them consistently, for months and maybe even a couple of years. And so as we see more and more of that happening, and more sort of requests and more need come in, it gets to be pretty obvious that it's more work than one person can take on. And so one of the thoughts as we think through the future and stuff is like, well, how can we better resource and better take care of our churches and better have a better strategy in this area? And so one of the thoughts that was presented was like, because it always comes down to funding in many ways, right? It always comes down to, well, we would love to be able to do that, but can we fund that? And so that becomes difficult. And so I think somebody there, I can't remember who, somebody there maybe said, you know what, I wonder if that could be funded through sometimes some associations. They said, I know some associations, even their association, they said may have hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside for, maybe it's set aside for a church plant, or it's set aside for a camp or some other reasons, and they're just kind of holding that money for the day that some opportunity becomes available. But a lot of times that money can sit in accounts for years and years and years. And they said, I wonder if it could be something where associations would fund, and we're not talking about, I don't think it's probably realistic for associations to fund, or even necessary probably to fund, sort of a full-time church health people, or whatever you would call them. But would it make sense for them to fund somebody on a very part-time basis, of saying, hey, we want them to be our church health person, and they're gonna help the needs within our churches. And so, just a question to you: if your church is involved in an association, if you've been a part of that process, if your church's or association maybe has money that's been sitting on for a while for different things, like, just curious, like, is that something that you think they should consider? Let's say that first. Do you think that's something that they should consider? Number two, do you think that's something that they ever would consider? Because I want to think through it well, and then I think the more information and more feedback I can get, the better. Ultimately, we want to help churches, and we want to find the best way to do that. And so, would that be a smart way to go about it? Would that be a better investment? Because maybe you're thinking like, yeah, we have this money set aside for church planting, or we have it set aside for whatever. But if our churches aren't healthy, then they're not able to give back to the association. They're not able to give back to the denomination. They're not raising up leaders who could become these potential church planters. And so maybe we need to invest some money into getting them healthy first. And then ultimately it's basically an investment that you're making that hopefully you're hoping that's going to turn into something down the road. So just throwing that out there. Is that something your association would ever consider? Or is there another idea that maybe you're thinking about that we're not thinking about? Like, is there another idea of, hey, have you thought of this? I'd love to hear your ideas, thoughts, feedback as how we can better help resource churches that are struggling, that are in decline, that are really dying over the next 3, 5, 10 years. As we look big picture down the road, how can we do our best to serve them? And so love to hear your feedback. Looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody.